All right, we are breaking here in with breaking news about the security breach where the Atlantic magazine's Jeffrey Goldberg was added to a text thread about U.S. military plans to strike Houthi militias in Yemen. Well, the administration officials involved, who are among the highest ranking in the U.S. government, insist no classified information was shared. Moments ago, a follow-up. Goldberg posted a follow-up piece entitled, "Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal." He writes in part this: "The statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the context of the Signal texts, have led us to believe that people should see the texts in order to reach their own conclusions," and then laid out in this latest piece, which broke just now in The Atlantic. Jonathan Lemire, everyone can see the text for themselves.
Yeah, the screenshots of the text are included in this piece that Jeffrey Goldberg and Shane Harris just posted on The Atlantic's website. We'll go through a little bit of it now. The White House, as you just mentioned, has insisted time and again two things: that nothing in here was classified and that no war plans were included. Well, as Jeffrey and Shane write, take a look for yourself. I'll read a little bit of it here. These are texts from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, talking about at 11:44 Eastern that day, weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. 12:15 texts in this chat, F-18's launch. Declares this the first strike package. At 1:45, talks about how the trigger-based strike window begins. Target terrorist is at known location. Here we are here. Second strike at 15:36. More to follow. We're currently clean on OPSEC. Of course, Secretary of Defense declares they're clean on OPSEC in a text chain read by the editor of The Atlantic, who was inadvertently added to that group. And we'll note a short time later, we have further updates from Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, who talks about how the target has been hit, declaring positive identifications. So these would seem to me, the very definition of attack plans. And I've already talked to a former Pentagon official who says, reading these screenshots hurriedly, of course, everything in here would be classified.
And leading up to that, of course, a lot of debate about it openly on Signal. Joining us now, Editor-in-Chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. Jeffrey, would you like to talk a little bit more about the decision to release these?
Well, sure. Well, first of all, we didn't do this lightly. And all yesterday, we were asking our contacts across the administration, national security complex, CIA, DNI, et cetera, do you have any, since the president has declared this unclassified, and since the DNI, since the head of the CIA said there's nothing sensitive or nothing classified in these documents, we just want to make sure that you don't have specific objections to this kind of information going out in public. The White House issued us an anodyne statement late last night saying they think that some of this is sensitive and they would rather not have it out there, but there was no objections to specific details. We did redact one piece of information because we felt on our own that we felt it was best to do, and the CIA asked us. But, you know, at a certain point, the administration is saying that there's nothing classified or secret or sensitive in these. So at a certain point, I just felt, you know, let our readers decide for themselves. Read these texts that I got sitting in my car on my phone in a Safeway parking lot 2 hours before the attack launched, and you tell me if this seems like good operational security. You know, and really, I really mean it. Let the readers decide.
Right. And Jonathan Lemire, two issues here. Of course, that Jeffrey was included on this, and there have been accusations made over the airwaves, I believe by Mike Waltz, that there was some sort of foul play on Jeffrey's part. I'd love Jeffrey to respond to that. But also the fact that this was on Signal is a big issue as well.
Yeah, so Jeffrey, let's start there. Sure you've heard, President of the United States called you a sleazebag. Members of his top officials in his administration used similar terminology to describe you and your reporting here. So first, just respond to that, and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, it's kind of rude. First, they invite me to their Signal chat, and then they call me names. That doesn't seem right. Yeah, and I've seen these. I mean, I get it. Mike Waltz is looking for the real killer. You know, the simple truth of the matter is, on March 11th, Mike Waltz sent me a message request on Signal, and I accepted it. That's the entire story. I mean, there's no daring do here. I entirely passively accepted his request to connect on Signal. I'm not going to comment on my relationship with Mike Waltz. He's been saying unserious and unkind things about me. That's okay. But you know, the story is the story.
Yeah.
March 11th, he reached out. March 13th, I'm added to the Houthi PC small group. March 15th, they announced to the small group before the attack occurs that the attack is occurring and what weapons they're using. And then I began the process of writing up what I thought was a story about a massive security breach at the highest levels of the United States government. That's the story.
Yeah, it is a massive security breach, although I think the one positive here is that readers can decide for themselves. There is
the one positive here, and this is the purpose of journalism, because, you know, it's like we discovered something that the government was doing that was wrong and dangerous. And, you know, they could have responded by saying, yeah, we shouldn't have been on Signal. We won't do it again.
Right.
That would have been an easy way to deal with this.
It would have been a lot easier than the way they're dealing with it now, because they have a lot of different conflicting stories that they're putting out there. Also, I think trying to defame your character to an extent, and I take issue with that. And Jonathan, on top of it, they're using an unsecured commercial app.
Yeah, unsecured commercial app on phones that themselves potentially could be vulnerable. Jeffrey, let's get you to respond, if we could, to in real time. The White House press secretary Karen Leavitt just posted. She took a screenshot of the Atlantic headline, which reads, I will say again for the viewers, here are the attack plans that Trump advisors shared on Signal. She writes this: the Atlantic has conceded these were not, quote, war plans. The entire story was another hoax written by a Trump hater, yada, yada. So, Jeffrey, does this seem like they're parsing the difference between a war plan and an attack plan?
I don't even know what that means. I mean, the plain language in the text is, well, yeah, what are they arguing? That an attack is different than a war? They put operational details of a forthcoming attack on a terrorist organization into Signal, into a Signal chat that included phone numbers that they didn't recognize. I don't even understand what that means. They're talking about attacking and killing terrorists using various weapon systems. So she's just playing some sort of weird semantic game. I don't understand.
So let's talk about those texts a little further. And as you say, you're allowing readers to decide for themselves what they mean. But just walk us through some of the text you saw there from particularly the Secretary of Defense and then later the National Security Advisor about the operation that day in Yemen.
Right. Look, the key thing here is, this is an interesting one you have up on the screen. This is Mike Waltz in a commercial messaging app providing real-time intelligence updates about the consequences of an American attack. Obviously, there's a challenge here for secrecy, because if you know this, the question then arises, how do they know this, and what kind of assets do they have, technical or human assets that would know that? But the core of this chain is the statement, is the long text issued by Pete Hegseth 2 hours before the first bombs fell in Yemen. Everybody can find it on the Atlantic website now, in which he goes hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute. Here's what's going to happen. And the thing that really struck me as I'm, again, reading this on my phone in a Safeway parking lot, the thing that really struck me is that he's telling me and others that an attack hasn't even begun yet, but the planes are launching in 31 minutes. You know, like, imagine this text went to someone else. I mean, if that's not secret, classified information about, or the most sensitive kind of government information in the world, I don't know what is. I mean, if Caroline Levitt is arguing that it's not a war because Congress didn't declare war on Yemen, okay, fine. She wants to play a semantic game. But this is operational details about a forthcoming attack on an enemy that has anti-aircraft capabilities. They've allegedly shot down our drones before. So why you would tell anyone in the world on a messaging app that American pilots are about to fly into a, sorry for the expression, war zone, that's an interesting question.
So, Jeffrey, I'd love for you to stay and join for this conversation. We're going to bring in Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. He's the vice chair and top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. And during his opening statements at yesterday's hearing with the administration's intel heads, he said the situation was mind-boggling and demonstrates sloppy, careless, incompetent behavior. Senator, do these text messages that are now released by The Atlantic, by Jeffrey's reporting, answer some of the questions that you couldn't get answers to yesterday?
Well, it sure answers the question that the two witnesses, I believe, lied when they said, oh, nothing to see here, nothing classified. One of the witnesses tried to hedge a little bit later about, well, this may be defense classified, but you would have to be an idiot not to understand what Jeffrey just laid out is at a huge classification level, that if it had fallen into enemy hands and the Houthis had been able to realign their offenses, American lives could be lost. And the reason why I say it's a pattern, you know, the first 2 weeks of the administration, they inadvertently released the names of 200 new CIA agents. Those individuals, if their identities are known, they can't be put into the field now. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of training beyond screwing up those people's lives. There's not a day that goes by that you guys don't report another one of the Doge boys in one of our classified agencies giving up personal information. This is a pattern of sloppiness and incompetence that I think reflects this administration's approach, at least towards sensitive information.
And Jeffrey, I wonder what you make when you hear Senator Warner saying those two top officials lied. What questions does it raise in your mind, given what you received, what you're reporting? For me, it's how many other group chats are out there on Signal.
Right. I'd like to be invited to more of these groups where allegedly nothing happens. You know what it raises for me, well, a number of things. I think the semantic games are fascinating here. I believe it was Tulsi Gabbard who said, well, maybe there's defense classified information, but not intelligence classified information. But it's all one thing. I mean, it's a combined effort. When the U.S. engages in kinetic action against an enemy, obviously many intelligence agencies are involved in helping the Defense Department and the combatant commanders understand what they're up against. It's all one thing. It's all one operation. There are many, many different branches of the United States government combining efforts. So there's leakage from silo to silo. It's not like, well, that's the Air Force's problem, that's the Navy's problem, that's the CIA's problem. It's one big attack.
Right.
Fed.
And can I just interrupt there? Can I?
Yeah.
Could I just add that, you know, to add what Jeffrey said, you know, it's not like you suddenly say, well, this isn't CIA sourced, so I don't have to keep it secret. I mean, that is so does not pass the smell test. I mean, this is the Signalgate fiasco, I guess, but it just, it's crazy. And the effect, we talked about the effect on American soldiers, but the effect on our allies, this is all based on trust relationships. I mean, I get America first, but it shouldn't be America alone. And where this crowd is taking us is to an America that is going to be less safe because they don't keep information secret, less safe because our allies are not going to be trusting us, less safe on the economy because an example that didn't make much news, one of our commercial space companies was delivering photos to Ukraine, Maxar. Well, that contract got arbitrarily put on hold. What European country or foreign company is going to ever buy American space services? So this level of incompetence is going to ripple through the economy. It's going to ripple through our place in the world, and it's just inexcusable.
So it's the top of the hour, and if you're just joining us, we are following breaking news right now about the massive Trump administration security breach. The Atlantic and editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg has released the texts on the group chat on the commercial app Signal that basically lays out war plans, an imminent war plan. And Jonathan Lemire, the key text is from the defense secretary, is it not?
Yeah, we have seen in the last 24 hours, and I wrote about this last night, the Trump administration philosophy here is to attack the messenger, to attack Jeffrey, to defame, to just try to discredit his reporting in the Atlantic. Well, as Jeffrey just outlined for us, the internal debates there at the magazine about whether to release these texts or not. We heard from administration officials saying they were not classified. Decision was made, not lightly, as Jeff just said, to release them. And I was going to read a couple here now that we're past the top of the hour. The key ones being from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, on the day in question, 11:44 Eastern, saying weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. At 12:15, about a half hour later, saying F-18s launch, declaring this the first strike package. At 1:45, saying the trigger-based F-15 first strike window starts. The target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also suggesting that strike drones are launching. And then a short time later, at 14:15, strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. And then, as a postscript, Joe, a short time later, we hear from the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, confirming with some sort of verification, some sort of other asset, that the strike was successful. But to Jeff's point of a moment ago, these texts appeared in this group chat, which he was invited, and there was a window there where these planes were in the air. Well, and if these texts have fallen in the wrong hands, lives would be in danger.
Yeah, I mean, in the air, but even worse than that, the exact timing of the launch of those jets, American jet fighters, actually stated the mission, the exact time that the mission was a go, stated the target in place where they're expecting the target to be, confirmed on Signal the success of the strikes and the continuation of the mission, all written here. Jeffrey, please add to this, and then I would love the senator to tell us in what universe every single one of these items wouldn't be the most highly classified of information for the federal government.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, what we're reacting to here in part is Trump administration officials saying that there's nothing sensitive in this chat. It doesn't amount to a war plan or an attack plan or secret information or sensitive information. Obviously, a plain reading of many of these texts, including and especially Pete Hegseth's text. I mean, if the timing of a combat mission, an imminently launched combat mission, is not sensitive government information, I simply don't know what is. And as I've said before, you know, I was the passive recipient of this. I was put into this text chain. Couldn't quite believe that I'm finding out something that obviously if the Houthis or the Iranians or others knew, it would at minimum give them time to escape. At maximum, it would give them time to prepare for the American attack. And remember, the attack was conducted, according to Pete Hegseth in these chats, by piloted American aircraft. This was not merely drones and cruise missiles. And so, you put this kind of information out and you're possibly endangering the people who work for Pete Hegseth, pilots. Right. So I mean, the whole thing is very interesting, and we felt obviously that since the administration was saying nothing to see here, at a certain point you have to let the citizens of America just look and understand what's going on.
Yeah. So Jonathan, I'd love for you to talk to the ranking member of the Senate Intel Committee and go through each one of those items you just listed individually and let's find out if those would, in fact, be classified.
Okay, so, Senator, I'm going to read from you, starting with the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth's text in this group chat that Jeffrey was a part of. And as Joe said, if you could, when I read each item, let us know if you believe that would be classified or not. First, 11:44 a.m. Eastern that time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM we are a go for mission launch.
Classified.
Okay, next, 12:15 Eastern, F-18s launch, declaring this first strike package.
Obviously classified. If the bad guys knew, that would be harmful to the mission.
Okay, keep going. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time, all caps. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s.
Anybody who didn't realize or wouldn't put classified, if this was a test, you'd get a failing grade and you would not be admitted into, the intelligence community or the military.
We'll do just a couple more. 14:15, strike drones on target. This is all caps. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop.
Good Lord.
Pending earlier trigger-based targets.
Good Lord.
The old Russian KGB would give their arm and a leg to try to get that information real time.
And then at 15:36, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched.
Again, let's go to the consequences. There's got to be consequences. Pete Hegseth either didn't realize he was on signal, which is not a classified channel. And, I know some of the folks, Witkoff, I guess, was in Russia. Rule number 1, don't take anything to Russia. Gabbard was on a plane or near a plane in Southeast Asia. There are classified communication channels there. So violation number 1, he should have never put this on any non-classified channel. Number 2, if he or anyone else is saying there's nothing to see here, it is a lie, and I believe deserves firing. And then number 3, to instead of acknowledge or have any humility to acknowledge a mistake, he lashes out at Jeffrey Goldberg. I know that is typical modus operandi for this Trump administration, but at what point, and I'm saying this mostly to my Republican friends who I know care deeply about our national security, at what point will this just be too much and you find your voice and join me and others in saying people responsible for this fiasco gotta go?
We should note the Wall Street Journal editorial board deemed that Witkoff's presence in Moscow perhaps the most disturbing part of all this. Senator,
let me read that really quickly.
Sure.
Witkoff was receiving these messages on the commercial app while in Moscow. This is security malpractice and adds to the building perception that Mr. Witkoff is out of his depth in dealing with world crises. That's from the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Of course, the National Review this morning, an editorial saying that Hegseth has to go.
Yeah, we just heard from Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona also declared just moments ago that the Secretary of Defense needs to resign. Senator Warner, last one for you. Just if you could again tell us if this would be, in your estimation, classified or not. It's actually 2 texts from National Security Advisor Waltz. First being in the aftermath of the attack saying, I'm writing here, the first target, their top missile guy. We had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. Would that be classified as well?
Again, absolutely.
Okay. And then he said, the National Advisor then tells the
obvious
Senator to
on his
rescue
face.
I mean, what's the? I think for everybody in the intel community, what would be the most shocking, Jeffrey, would be the fact that you have a Secretary of Defense on a commercial app, which, by the way, as Jonathan read to us yesterday, the CIA Alumni Association sent out a warning a few days earlier to members of the CIA Alumni Association that Signal was not secure and to not send information around there. But you have a Secretary of Defense that is literally laying out, as you've revealed this morning, literally laying out when the operation began, when the fighter jets took off, when the sea attacks took off, when the target was in the location, when the bombs were starting to drop. This is beyond breathtaking, and I'm just curious your response to the denials yesterday that these were war plans.
I don't know. I mean, Joe, if you and me and Mika and Jonathan were launching our Air Force to bomb some other show, maybe it's not a war. Maybe it's just a kinetic action. Maybe it's just an attack plan. Or the semantics here are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just absolutely ridiculous. They're putting anybody with common sense can understand that is highly sensitive information, especially before an attack. So they can play a semantic game, but it's just silly. It's not. You know what it is? It's not serious. It's like, this is national security in the United States. The Houthis are a terrible group of terrorists. Like you have to be serious about confronting these challenges to the security of the United States. This is not, the administration right now is not engaged in a particularly serious conversation around this. The only other thing I would say, related to the security here and Signal is, if you or me or whoever are putting imminent attack plans into a group chat, I think most of us would try to figure out exactly who is in the group chat before we put that information in.
At the very least.
That's sort of the minimum requirement, I guess.
So, Senator Warner, I'd like to ask you what's next. I have a quote here from Senator Mark Kelly, who said earlier, I asked if there were other signal chains and other principles, and the answer is yes, there is. I asked if you've gone through to check that no other random people are in there, and one witness said they did, the other witness said they didn't. There are possibilities. There are other signal chains with random people included. Also, there are other signal chains. That alone is a problem. We are establishing Signal is not where these conversations are supposed to take place. So what's next? What
let me first of all, Signal is safer than traditional cell phone traffic. You want to plan a meeting, that's fine. But the idea of this kind of classification information that could, as Jeffrey laid out, could put people in harm's way, there's no debate on this. So what's next is, how many other of these chats and what is the content, and there needs to be a review. Secondly, and this was just the arrogance, particularly of Tulsi Gabbard yesterday, where she wouldn't even acknowledge, was this on her own phone or a government phone? So we need to collect all the phones from these individuals or the intelligence community, because there's the ability, if the encrypted app of Signal is penetrated, you could drop malware. Have those phones been compromised? Remember, we do know Salt Typhoon, China's in all our telecom networks already. So the ability, if they have broken through the Signal encryption, to go at a specific dialed number, we don't have the devices. And will there be consequences? I go back to, if this had been anyone else, military officer, CIA case officer, fired without question.
Well,
and this is the crowd.
Again, I go back
Senator, to Tulsi Gabbard said 11 days ago, leakers should be better, should be prosecuted.
Senator, I got to ask you, what are your Republican colleagues going to say about this today? How could they say anything other than what the Secretary of Defense did was a fireable offense? It's what National Review has said. That is what other people who are deeply concerned about this have said. As you stated, there are Republican senators that you work with who are deeply concerned about America's national security. How do they not step up and condemn this and ask whether the SecDef, who put this over a commercial app that is not completely secure, while the head of Intel was flying on a plane in Southeast Asia and Witkoff was in Russia. Russia. How could your colleagues, Republican colleagues, not see this as a tipping point?
Joe, I've heard lots of private concerns. You asked the exact right question. Will they find their voices today? What will be the breaking point? And if this level of carelessness around national security isn't the breaking point, I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I get criticized by you guys sometimes for being too bipartisan. But my God, if this is not going to allow people to find their voices and speak out, then I am worried whether we're going to ever put any kind of guardrails on this administration's, I think, sloppy, incompetent, and now very dangerous behavior.
We are, it is 9:15. Mika, get us up to date with what's happened over the past 45 minutes for those that are now waking up and tuning in on the West Coast.
Well, we've been covering all morning the group chat on Signal that included Jeffrey Goldberg, which was discussing war plans. And for the past 24 hours, the White House has been pushing back and using semantics to try and defend what they did, and also worked to bring down the reputation of Jeffrey Goldberg, which ultimately will not work, especially given the breaking news we have to report to you right now about the security breach, where The Atlantic magazine's Goldberg was added to a text thread about U.S. military plans to strike Houthi militias in Yemen. The administration officials involved, who are among the highest ranking in the U.S. government, insist no classified information was shared. Moments ago, Goldberg posted a follow-up piece entitled, "Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal." And Jeffrey writes in part this: "The statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the context of the Signal text, the content of the Signal texts, have led us to believe that people should see the texts in order to reach their own conclusions." And Jeffrey came to us first here on Morning Joe after posting the piece, and the texts are quite revealing.
Well, shocking. I mean, not a word we want to use often, but shocking. We will be adding Tina Brown and Chris Matthews to this conversation, but Jeffrey Goldberg, again, for those waking up on the West Coast right now, it's about 6:15 out there. Get us up to date with what you released this morning about 45 minutes ago and why you felt the necessity to release it.
Well, the necessity was clear. The Trump administration had said yesterday that there was nothing to see here, essentially, nothing sensitive in the documents. We decided to go to the administration, to the individual organizations, the DNI, CIA, DOD, et cetera, and say, given what Donald Trump and others, Tulsi Gabbard, et cetera, have said about these texts, we want to publish them so people can judge for themselves. But give us, we gave them a full day. Give us any indication at all, despite what your bosses said, despite what the bosses said, any indication at all that something here is sensitive in a way that could possibly harm American interests, or especially American people, American personnel. They came back with nothing. And one case that we did respond to a CIA request to keep out a name, which seemed like the responsible thing to do. But we decided that we should put the text out so people can see whether or not this is, from a plain understanding of what secrecy is, whether this material was appropriate to put on a commercial messaging app. And the material, the key to me is the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth's very long text describing to everybody on the Signal chat, including yours truly, the sequence of events in Yemen on Saturday, March 15th, that would culminate in the killing of a top Houthi terrorist.
Jeffrey, can you list those as Lemire did, just briefly, what he actually put in the signal chat, the specific launch plans, the timing, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, let me read it to you. No. Let me read it to you. At 11:44 a.m., this is the text that I received. Hegseth posts in the chat, team update, and then the text begins, all caps. Time now, 11:44 Eastern time. Weather is favorable, all caps. Just confirmed, I don't know why everything was in all caps. With CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. The Hegseth text continues, 12:15 Eastern time. F-18's launch, all caps. First strike package. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts, parentheses, target terrorist at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drone launch, MQ-9s. MQ-9s are the Reaper drones. And then, and obviously to just make this point, it's like everybody on this chain is getting texts about an attack that hasn't even launched yet. And if this signal chat had been read by an adversary of the United States, I mean, you could use your imagination where that could go. Then the Hegseth text continues, 14:10, meaning 2:10 p.m. Eastern time. More F-18s launch, second strike package, 14:15, strike drones on target, and then in parentheses, all capital letters. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop.
Oh, my God.
Ending earlier trigger-based targets, 15:36, another 3:36 p.m. Eastern, F-18 second strike starts, also first sea-based Tomahawks launch. In other words, which weapons we're using, what time we're using them, and obviously using standoff weapons or using unmanned aircraft, obviously a different category. I mean, obviously still secret, but a different category than using piloted aircraft. And then at the end of that particular chain, he says, we are currently clean on OPSEC, meaning that's operational security. And of course, I read this, I'm sitting in my car in a Safeway parking lot reading, we are currently clean on OPSEC. And, parentheses, except for the fact that you're mistakenly sending this to the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic.
And
in a Safeway parking lot.
In a Safeway parking lot, a grocery run delayed there for Jeffrey. But the pushback from the White House the last 24 hours has been there's nothing classified here. There's nothing there's sensitive. And this morning, it seems to be quibbling over a word that the Atlantic deemed this war plans, and they're calling it an attack plan. That is the defense from the White House press secretary this morning.
Well, these war plans.
And attack plans. Both should be classified. So there's no issue here.
Yeah. So, Jeffrey, let me ask you if you could switch hats for 1 minute. And we thank you so much for being here and giving us this information. You've got the vice chairman, obviously, of the Senate Intel Committee with you, Mark Warner. What would you like to ask him as a journalist, as a reporter?
Well, I mean, the questions I would ask any member of the Senate Intel Committee is this. We know, I mean, and Senator Warner obviously knows this, that, let's say, junior Army officers, junior Air Force officers, CIA case officers, State Department officials operate under extreme operational security guidelines, right? They're constantly trained and retrained in cybersecurity. We know even at the embassy level, security officers go through people's offices at night looking for classified information that people might have left on the desk. You could get punished for doing that. You could lose your job. You could be kicked out of the Army for that. You can go to prison for that. So the question is, if there are serious consequences for the rank and file across the American national security complex, what kind of consequences need to be put in place, or are there consequences when the leaders, the supervisors of those people make the same mistakes, or actually, in a way, more consequential mistakes?
Well, Jeffrey, I would add one other piece to that. We had two witnesses yesterday basically say there were no attack plans, war plans. Clearly, they didn't either read the text or they didn't tell the truth. You had Hegseth launching a personal attack against you, denying as well. So you not only have the lack of willingness to acknowledge they screwed up, you then have complete disinformation, misinformation about the content. And I can tell you, this is not a close call. You would be fired. And then to add insult to injury, Gabbard 12 days ago went on a long tweet screech about, any leakers were going to pursue to the end of the full extent of the law. This constant, you heard some of the same things from Patel. Will those standards they lay out apply to these senior members? And it goes back to the question that was asked earlier. All of the Democrats will agree, but this should not be partisan. The Intelligence Committee, I've prided the fact when I was chair or vice chair, it's always bipartisan. I just hope and pray that my colleagues who I know care about national security will find their voice and condemn this and call for results, call for a few heads to roll, because otherwise we just sanction this behavior. And not only does it demoralize the men and women of the intel community, but what does our allies do? Do you think Mossad or MI6 or any of our other allies are going to share intelligence with us if this is how it's treated?
Yeah, Senator, let me ask you an uncomfortable question. You have shared leadership of the committee with Senator Marco Rubio, a senator that when he was nominated to be Secretary of State, we all sat around this table, and I know you probably said the same thing, which was there's some things we may disagree with Senator Rubio on, but he would be a good pick for Secretary of State, given the fact that he had worked so effectively with you and others, and as we have pointed out from time to time, when it was necessary to criticize Republicans and even the Trump administration in 2016, he was willing to do that. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the fact that Secretary of State Rubio was on this chain, this signal chain, when he probably knows more about the proper steps to take for passing intel information along than most all of us, except for yourself?
Yeah, as you said, there's the violation of who somebody should have checked who was on the call, on the line, on the chat. The others, you just don't do this on Signal. I'm disappointed. He is. I've not heard him weigh in or try to defend this behavior, but I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
But these folks are in these jobs. I do think Hegseth and Waltz need to go. I don't think there's any excusing that behavior. I'm increasingly concerned, particularly after Director Gabbard's testimony yesterday. But there needs to be consequences. If we allow this to become the norm, if we just blow this under the rug, it will hurt us, not for days or weeks, but for years to come.
Well, Senator, knowing that there are other of these conversations out there, it might lead many citizens to ask a basic question. Are we safe? Are our troops safe? Can you answer that question?
I can tell you that we are not made safer if people don't treat classified information appropriately. Unfortunately, go back even to President Trump with the records before. There is a cavalier, I think, sloppy attitude towards classified information. And when classified information gets out, people can die. And if our allies don't share, just one last quick example. If Austria had not shared information about the planned bombing at the Taylor Swift concert in Vienna, hundreds, maybe thousands would have died. They didn't have to share that. They share that just as our Five Eye partners do because they trust us. I know from conversations I've had that trust is being greatly undermined.
All right, Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, thank you so much.
Jeffrey had to go.
Greatly appreciate it. Also, our thanks to Editor-in-Chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, for his reporting and for coming to us first here on Morning Joe after this major development. Let's bring